good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to the wonderful dream team of PianoForte. Tonight we have Jeremy, the genius, we have Rachel, we have Thomas. A big applause. And tonight I will have a very special guest for the first time at PianoForte. And we're going to create something nobody heard. So I can't wait. But before, it's the tradition. I introduce the performance by a tune everybody knows. So you have to guess what. So, quizás, quizás. Yes. Of course, I changed it a little, not to be too easy, but it was to get the mood of the extract of the novel Nobody Heard about our very special guest. And the tradition is that I compose something new every week. And I had a big pressure because not so many time, because I have a big tour next week in Washington, New York, New Jersey, and New Haven. But last week, I got great ideas and thoughts and feedback about Thomas and Alain. So tonight, this is a special tribute about your ideas. And of course, it's not done yet, but it's work in progress. And it's always joyful to share the work in progress at PianoForte Chicago because it's the place. So, do you have any feedback about the new music? Oh, thank you. The idea of Thomas and Alain last week was about grooving about the left hand like a pianist. Did you have that feeling? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe more? So I'm not a piano, but I would like to have that kind of groove, and I will work more next week. But soon back to PianoForte. So now it's music I already composed, but it's a new setting of playing it. So enjoy. Thank you so much. You like the new setting? I have to tell you the story. 3 years now and a half, my dad passed away. And I composed a tune on him, Looking for Dad. And then this summer, during the tribute to Pina Bausch, I composed a tune. And then I played it here with my son. And I said, that's funny, because, you know, it's the same tone, the same key, and the same mood, but not at all. And tonight I wanted to combine, because, of course, it's a tribute to two people really I like. And it's funny, because I think you feel the groove, happy, and maybe a little nostalgic as well. And I like the way that time can maybe give the best and the worst, and how you can balance between both. And it's live today, and it's so good to see everybody here at PianoForte, and of course on our Facebook Live. And now it's time to introduce the very special guest. Everybody is ready? Rita Dragonette! So, we met a few years ago through our dear friends. Yes, I think the first time.
We met when she was in a retreat at Versailles.
Oh, at the King's Garden. One of my favorite places to compose. And then Rita showed up with Aimé and Meg. And then we became friends. And I told her, the more I know you, the more I like you.
Oh, don't make me cry before this. Before this, don't do that.
It's always good, you know, to have that kind of feeling before landing or
hug.
Yeah, cold? Okay, so you have to warm them up. And maybe you can introduce your novel just before. You know, my string broke 2 minutes before.
And you can fix it while I'm...
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have a long intro,
okay.
Jay. I'll have a long intro, and you can just let me know when your string is working. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for coming. The weather is frightful. I really appreciate the effort. Jay looks like he got out of his 20-minute traffic jam. And we're just both really pleased to be here. One thing we haven't mentioned is that this is actually the second collaboration that Isabelle and I have had combining words and music. And the first one was a tremendous fun. It was tremendously fun, but it had to do with harp music to an anti-war march, if you can imagine that. And she said, no problem. And after I heard it, it was like, well, then I know that harp music can actually go with anything. Or better yet, my stuff can go with her stuff. Anything can go with her stuff. So even if I'm not reading it all, she's a treasure to listen to, right? Even if she was all by herself. So since this is our second collaboration, we're just going to call it Two Redheads in Green. So seriously now, because we are streaming and no one else can share in the humor the way that we probably can, my part in this tonight is going to be that I'm going to read from the prologue of my work-in-progress second novel, which is called La Cadencia. And the piece that I'm going to read will explain what that title means, and will also set the theme for the rest of the novel. And very briefly, the story of the novel is older expats have gone to a spectacularly beautiful little town in a very romantic country with their last dream. And the tagline is, for a generation of dreamers, this last one really has to come true. Plaza del Toros, San Miguel Allende, Mexico, 2012. I was 10 rows up, dead center, with the best view of the entire bullring, at last. The white handkerchief dropped to signal the start of festivities. The music rose, and the three gloriously attired matadors moved before me in the elegant formation of the parade, the paseillo. I let the syllables of the Spanish word roll around my tongue before I said it out loud. Paseillo. They came out as poetry. I felt a squeeze of my hand. The handsome matadors advanced gracefully, the orange afternoon sun articulating each shimmering thread in the brocade of what they called their suits of light, like the facets of diamonds. I smiled, remembering first hearing that phrase as a young girl and visualizing the suits actually emitting rays. Each jacket was accented with a surprise hue, shocking pink, lime green, and lavender satin that matched the slices of color down their impossibly tight pants. Their entourages of men and horses followed them behind in the traditional order. Short of me and a mantilla with a fan, it was everything I'd ever imagined. A trumpet blast split through the spectacle. The gate burst open and the first bull ran to the center of the ring, skidding to a stop. I could barely sit still enough to stay stable on my bench. "You're finally going to see your live bullfight," Rob said, again squeezing my fingers tight against their new gold ring. "I'm glad it makes you happy, Rachel. You look 30 years younger, like a girl." I straightened to attention and cheered with the rest of the crowd, shaking our joined hands over my head with enough excitement, I was sure, for both of us. I had to force myself not to stand during the opening cape and shout antics of the energetic Banda de Reyes as they ran the bull. It was too early. No one else was on their feet yet, and I could see fine. I clapped with joy, mouthing every "eh-hey" and "eja toro." However, when the lime green matador reappeared, making an elaborate Veronica, the bull took only an indifferent lunge at the cape. The matador, in response, made barely a gesture of a sidestep. Both of them repeated the moves a half-dozen half-hearted times. Could this be proper? I looked around, but others seemed impressed as they leaned forward with anticipatory smiles. The bull wasn't even winded before the picadors galloped out on horseback, stabbing its hump of neck muscle with their long Vera pikes. Still, they looked to spectators for cheers. The crowd gave them what they wanted. Then, in a wave and a rush, the hierros returned, roughly plunging their sharp harpoon-like sticks, festooned with colored paper, into the same place in the bull's neck. The matador waited, holding his smaller red muleta cape and the fateful sword. I held out hope. This was the part I was most looking forward to, the la hora de verdad, the moment of truth, where surely there would be real danger and art. The bull lowered its head, pawed the ground with the front hoof, then charged. I took Rob's hand and hung on hard. A quick series of passes, bull charging and matador diverting, and suddenly the sword had been sunk, the matador had stepped back, and the hierros rushed in to take over, distracting the staggering bull until its knees buckled. This last part seemed longer than the entire fight before. The bull went down. I pulled my hand from Rob's and covered my mouth. A single jab of the putinha knife to the back of the bull's head for the coup de grace, and it was over. The matador turned to the audience for his expected applause, pausing as he circled, it seemed, directly in front of me. I was too stunned to move my hands to clap. Not exactly everything you dreamed it would be, was it? Rob said, gathering his things. Right? He asked when I didn't answer. No, I whispered, as I watched the matador walk off until he disappeared from the ring. I thought there'd be more ceremony, some romance. I warned you. He stood up, as if that settled it. You mustn't go so soon, said an older woman sitting next to me. I hadn't noticed her until now. You haven't learned anything yet. About what, this? Rob gestured toward the ring. These guys were nowhere near the bull. Anyone who knows anything about bullfighting could see it. He shifted his sweater and water bottle into one hand, cupping the other in a waving signal for me to rise and join him. I tugged down on his sleeve. He sighed and sat, elbows on his thighs, ready to spring. The band in the gallery rose with a horn-heavy call screeching into key to signal the next bull was about to come out. You have to put yourself in the bull's mind, the woman said, leaning into me. Imagine it. She fanned her hand, her eyes following her fingers. Up until now, he's had an idyllic life. All the food he wants, acres of grass to run free, plenty of cows to service. Then today, they shove him into a truck and force him down a narrow tunnel. Voices are screaming, and that loud music is playing. He's pushed out a gate. Suddenly, everyone is coming at him, yelling and prodding. He doesn't know it's all to get him to charge so they can kill him. He doesn't know he's part of a historic ritual. There's so much he doesn't know. Rob snickered and began to page through the program. You realize there are 5 bulls to go, don't you, Rachel? We have an appointment with the realtor at 4. The appointment had been to humor me. Are you an aficionada? I asked the woman. I was trying to cover for Rob's rudeness, but I realized I very much wanted her to say yes. I suppose you could say I'm an aficionada. She laughed softly, her lips settling into a yellow smile. I also once thought I knew all about bullfighting and that it was romantic. I admired the dedication of the matadors. I read a book about it long ago. She gave me a sly look, testing. I wanted to live my life all the way up. Remember? Like a bullfighter, I finished her paraphrase of the famous Hemingway quote. I laughed. It was the same novel I'd read myself as a teenager. She nodded as if I'd said the title out loud. But I have learned a great deal in the 20 years I have lived here. Now it is the bulls I learn from. I am here every day they're here. The cadence was Mexican, but I saw she was indeed a gringa, somewhere in her late 70s, I supposed. She had frizzled hair over-bleached by the sun and cleavage burnt to the leathery sheen of reptile skin, partly camouflaged by a massive silver necklace. She was a little witchy, but I was intrigued. I've always wanted to see a bullfight, but I didn't know where to begin. Anything I'd say would sound so silly to someone like her. Instead, I asked, is it always so quick? These matadors are pathetic, Rob interrupted. But the matadors are making the bull angry, which is the point at this stage, the aficionada said, nodding toward the ring. Now they need to weaken it in the neck. The head will go down, and the sword can then be thrust from high above, through the shoulder blades, right to the heart in a single stroke. It does take a very skilled matador, the kind they rarely get in San Miguel. The ones who come here usually have to extend the fight until the bull's front legs give way and it lies down. See, there it goes. Almost down, but sitting. It has to be flat before they can end it. This is the part that's hard to watch. The hierros leapt around the bull, diverting its attention. They waved their arms as the bull kept trying to hold up its heavy head. Finally, it dropped backwards, exhaling blood bubbles, fighting for its life. The shocking pink matador approached, pushing his way between two hierros struggling to pin the bull in place. He watched them plunge the knife into the kill spot, then stalked away as if he too were disappointed. This part seems to take longer with each bull, I said, after the fourth. You're right, the aficionada said. It should be done well and quickly. It shouldn't be about pain, but about what comes before, the thrill and grace of the death dance, and then the quick, merciful ending. I think we've had enough, Rob said to me as another bull came out. You've seen what you came for. Now it's just the same thing over and over, and they sure as hell aren't getting any better. You know, I can't stand watching sports that aren't done properly. I felt the aficionada stiffen at the word sports. But I couldn't look away. There was something different about this next bull. He charged from the gate, then halted, standing perfectly still, head cocked, staring at the hierros in front of him with an expression I swore I understood. They rushed at him, trying to get him to run or charge, but he remained fixed to his spot, even when they swirled their capes closer and closer, even when they yelled, "Eja toro," and "Mira, mira, mira, look, look, look." He began to move toward the center of the ring only when the picadors rode up with their spikes, stabbing 1, 2, 3 times. He didn't even try to shake off the barbs. He finally backed up and hugged the wall of the ring. Then he turned to snort at each of them, clearly signaling this spot as his turf. He raised his head above his ravaged neck and again stood still as a stone. He's found his carencia, the aficionada said. Carencia, I asked. The place in the ring where the bull feels safe, where he thinks he's won. Make it last, big one, she said with affection. See, even the banderilleros are giving him a moment. The bull basked in the bright sunlight. He seemed almost to smile. But soon the lavender matador appeared with his cape and sword to force him away from the ring wall. He dashed one way and then another. He tried to get back to his safe place, but the matador headed him off, dancing around him with increasing theatrics until he finally charged. The matador lined himself up and plunged the blade. The arrows moved in as he swayed, flapping their capes so he'd turn his head from side to side, and the embedded sword would belatedly do its job, nicking the aorta to end it all. He reeled again and again, belching short howls of fury. I wanted to signal to him to lie back and give in to the relief of the dagger. I realized I had raised a hand. Around the other, I felt the firm, wet grasp of the aficionados. We stayed clenched as the blood ran out of the bull, and our hands cooled, and our tears dried. That's it. We're not staying for another bull, Rob announced, as if from another world, though I'm sure she'll want to hang in through the end. The aficionado rose slowly with some effort. Not today, she said. Yes, they were terrible matadors, though in any fight these days, even the good ones rarely hit the heart. Then why do you continue to come, I had to ask. For the promise of la carencia, for many bulls, it never happens. She took my arm, walked me out. We headed from the ring, Rob trailing behind us, tramping his feet in frustration at our pace. We exited just as the body of the last bull, my bull, I felt, was being dragged out the back with a chain around his neck, hooked up to a truck, his underside obscenely exposed. I stopped. Even Rob was startled. They say the meat goes to the poor, he said, as if that excused it. I wondered if the bull's dying rage would make the meat taste sharp and sour, and if the poor would notice or care. None of this matters, the aficionada said, with a quick flip of her free hand, pulling me forward. You've seen La Carencia. La Carencia, I repeated. I wonder if it's fair, allowing the bull to feel he has a chance for a different ending. No, it's a sweet time, she answered. The best time of his life. You could see he felt the power. He didn't know it was only for a moment.
Rita Dragonette.
Dragonetta.
Thank you so much, Rita.
Pardon?
So now it's the tradition. If you have any feedback, question, thoughts, comments, applause. Yes, there is a question.
Isabelle, how much before you composed the music did you hear the reading? And how many times did you have to hear the reading to compose the music?
So I think it's unpredictable. But we met last Friday.
It was very fast. Genius.
Blush.
So to be fair, I sent her the script. I don't think she read it before a few minutes before I came because she asked me for another copy.
No, I was not sure because
And then I walked
I have
in.
to tell the story, Rita.
Oh, okay, all right.
I understood that your thoughts were about talking a long pandemic. So last week I announced that there will be like a long talk about the pandemic.
She thought I was going to do my blog.
And then when I just prepared the rehearsal, I read the script and I said, that's not about pandemic. So I wrote her a message and then we rehearsed.
But I walked in, she had the script. Like I said, I don't think she read it more than once. And then she goes, here's what I'm thinking. That's brilliant. I'm not going to use the modifier I would have. And all the way through. And all we had to do was go through and say, the tone here, the tone here. And then we did go through once before you all came. I admit that.
But because you are very inspiring, Rita. That's easy.
Okay. And so is San Miguel.
There is a question there.
Well, please come in. I want to say I never want to hear a reading again without music.
Yeah, I know. This spoils you,
Thank
doesn't
you.
it?
It magnifies both the music and the text, so I think that's the really stunning moment for me. Because I'm also a writer, and sometimes I read aloud and it's so boring without the music. Now, second, I have a question for Rita, because I know she's been inspired by Hemingway in many ways from this text, but what I wonder is, what were you trying to, what really triggered you from Hemingway's original text and description of the world? What did you want to take out of it and bring into your text now, since it was written a little bit?
Well, without giving the story away, the idea of the title, which of course you all know is a working title, and somebody will say it must be English, but the concept of because I went to San Miguel and saw the bullfight, and it was just the whole idea. A friend of mine who's a photographer many years ago, had given me a photograph, and she said it was called La Querencia. And hers was a small girl in a backyard. And she said it has to do with safety, and this was my querencia. And I said, okay, what does this mean? The place in the ring where the bull feels safe. And the first thing I thought of was, okay, but shortly after, the bull will die. And the whole idea of living a life in that moment, which is your querencia, is something that I just was captivated with. And I think I was in Ragdale when I was working on this, and I had lunch with Kathleen Johnson, and I told you about this. I got really excited about doing all this in the prologue, because you need to know that there's no more bullfighting in this book.
No.
That's it. Yes. So the Hemingway allusions are gone, and La Querencia is not his. So for all of those who hate Hemingway, you know, I'm still readable, but I love the concept of that. So think about that. It's expats. Expats are older, they've lived their life, they've raised their family, they're doing well, but they still have one more dream. What do they want to do? And in my book, there are 5 people that have those dreams, which is a little like The Sun Also Rises. So they go to San Miguel. What are the odds they're all going to have their dream come true? And they meet at a bar called La Querencia instead of the cafes of Paris. Okay, are we intrigued? Now I have to hurry up and do it. Part of this was now I've gone public with this book, so I do have to finish it.
Yeah. It was a nice teaser. Now we are waiting.
I think this was an aperitif.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are waiting for the dinner.
For the steak.
How long do you have to wait?
Have you known him long? You never ask a writer that question. It's even worse than saying, how long will your book be? Yeah. Yes. Hopefully not too long, because now I've got, you're going to keep asking, right? Yeah, this is like being naked in a stadium. Here's my book. Okay? You're all my witnesses. And all the global people that are streaming right now.
Other questions, comments, thoughts, feedback?
How about
That's
the
it?
music?
I think the only comment, honestly, for me, is that the music that you have created to Rita's words and the feeling that her words were describing, and the music that you created to help us also feel that through the music was really moving. And also perfect, if I might say that, because it not only created a sense of peace when she was talking at times, but also a sense of immense tension at times. And so I thought it was so moving. And as you said again, to have the music accompany the words brought it to a different depth, if you will, because you have two different sensories now feeling what is happening. And that was really powerful. And thank you so much for that. That was my comment as far as what I felt from this.
Thank you so much. I have to tell you that I didn't compose everything. There were two traditionals. One was Mexican. It's a happy birthday for Mexican people. And the second one was habanera, and it's a traditional South America. I don't remember. Habanera is like I'm not sure about the country, so please forgive me. So of course, I try to suggest something to Rita, like she sends me a lot of emotions. I really like the way she writes and she tells us the story, and I try to be like a counterpoint. And I like this idea that it's a duet with music and words. And of course, I like the crossing.
Modena?
So perhaps this question has already been asked in another way, but I'm wondering, Rita, how this music will affect your writing of the rest of the book.
That is such a great question, because first of all, we're spoiled, right? I'll never be able to do a reading without Isabelle. Can
It's
you
a
play
big
guitar?
addiction.
Or Joan, you'll have to come and sing. You can sing my words. I'll write a song for you next. But I don't know how I can finish this book without having that in my head. And, and I know that there are writers who play music when they write, and I've always found that distracting. But now, particularly those energetic ones and the ones that are kind of scary. But also, this is this cadencia time. It's a happy time, but it's there's an end on it, and they don't really all know that. And I kept thinking when you were doing that, those last couple of songs, it was just like, oh yes, that's going to be here. It's being recorded, so it'll keep going. But you're right, I won't be able to write this book without it. And let's see how much easier it will be now. Not that painful thing I talk about in the blogs. Don't ever write during a pandemic. Write with music.
So thank you so much for joining us
Yes,
tonight.
thank you. I really
It was really
appreciate
a
it.
pleasure. Thank you, Rita Dragonette. Thank you, the dream team of PianoForte, and hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.